Cool. Welcome everybody to Meetup this month. Let me just jump right into it. Although 1 second. Got it. It's being recorded. Got it. It's being recorded. Okay, so we like to do introductions so everybody knows who everybody is. Hi, I'm Ethan.
I'm Scott.
And you could say where you work or something else if you want to.
Yeah, I'm going to be starting at Wilson Sonsini coming up next week. So excited about that. Be primarily developing microservices with event type.
Good stuff.
I'm Connor. I do DevOps at LiveView.
Let's go around back here. Eric, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Eric. I'm a friend of the group here. They invited me for the pizza, but I want to see how this starts. And I do operations for LVT.
Welcome, Eric.
Nadeem is here, Director of Engineering at LVT. And we are hosting this meetup at our site today. So welcome, everyone.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Zach. I'm a software engineer at a company based in Missouri called Jack Henry and Associates. We do event sourcing stuff and trying to learn more from other folks who do that.
What does Jack Henry do?
Banking software.
Okay. I'm Justin James. I'm a software engineer at LiveView, and we work in Eventide as well.
Yeah, and I'm Brian Sorge, and I work with Justin.
We have someone in the waiting room, a tool.
Okay, let him in.
Okay, his last name is,
Works for us.
Yes.
Yeah.
he's the IAM guy.
Yes.
Okay. Just got to make sure that the names match up because we got Zoom bombed last time.
Really?
Yeah, like some high school or college kids dropped in and said some things that none of us really wanted to hear. So
You're kidding.
Nice.
I made the mistake of posting the link on Twitter and I forgot about the internet and humanity. Hey, Atul, welcome. Did you want to introduce yourself? Oh, is our volume up enough?
Yeah, the volume's up.
Atul, did you want to say hello? I think that was a no. What about Connor Whitfield? I'm thinking should remove him.
We'll probably say some disturbing things.
Troy, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I can do that. I'm Troy Thomas. I work at LVT in the cloud space.
Awesome. Nadeem, since you are the LVT representative here, do you want to say anything more about LVT?
Yes. Well, we're glad to have you all here. And it was LVT Project Dinner Pizza, and it's a great place to work. Please feel free to send your resume at our website or directly send it to any of our presenter or the attendants here. So
How would you describe what LVT does?
we forgot the tagline. Justin, you want to help?
We build portable security trailers.
Yes.
That operate on solar and cellular to provide remote security administration at any location.
Thank you.
That's not our tagline, but
No, but
that's what we do.
But it's good.
It's a discover, deter, and some other day. Sorry, can you hear me? I'm kind of fading in and out.
You're coming through.
Okay.
Defend. That's the other one.
I think our tagline just changed. So it's, I don't remember what it changed to.
Okay, welcome to the marketing meetup. All right, so for the presentation today, like we've talked a lot about like the basics of setting up an event type component before. This one's more of a walkthrough of a specific design problem that seemed interesting. It's a totally hypothetical situation. Suppose that at your company you had a fleet of cellularly connected IoT devices, some of which had the capability of recording a video stream, and that you wanted to be able to take clips of those video streams and join them together to make a longer composite video. But because you're going over cellular, retrieving video is expensive. And so ideally for a given clip, you would only want to do that once. That's the specific problem that we're going through here that is totally hypothetical. But the idea, the more general pattern is you have some expensive operation in your system, and you only want to do that thing once. And it's not like idempotence in the same way as before, because other operations may need the result of this expensive thing. You don't know when, you don't know how many, whereas idempotence is more like, has this one entity done this thing already? Is the account already open? Have we already done the deposit? So that's what we're driving towards.
In this particular case, we had a similar scenario that's not related to video download. But the general idea that you're looking for is like, I may request it multiple times and you should act like you actually did it for me multiple
Yes.
times, even though you've reduced the expense to just one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. All right, so I'm going to start with a diagram that is loosely inspired by event modeling. It has blue and orange boxes, just like event modeling, and so that's good stuff. In the design, two components popped out. There's what I'm calling the composite component, which is the one that makes the composite videos. And I could make that text smaller if anyone would like me to. Let me zoom in there. And they have some crazy IDs on the streams here, but we'll talk about why they are the way they are. So we have this composite component, which the outside world would say, hey, I want you to build me a composite from this particular device, meaning like a particular camera. You're merging this with clips from that camera. And here's the start minute of the clip, first clip that I want, and the end minute. An assumption that we're making is that these devices are storing minute-long segments on their storage, and you can only do complete minutes. So no like minute 30 kind of stuff. That's just ridiculous. No one would need to do that. So the outside world would say, build this device. Here's the time range that I'm interested in. And then the composite component will say, hey, or it'll write an initiated event to capture those details and then begin working on the request. So it needs to get all the clips represented by the delta and the times there. And then once it has them all, it will stitch them together into a single video. And then, I don't know, however you want to get that, you can do that. Then there is the device video component, whose job it is to get a particular 1 minute segment for a given device and store it. And so it has a retrieve command with a device video ID. The interesting thing about the IDs here, both in the case of composite ID and the device video ID, is that those are a concatenation of, say, device ID and start minute. So if you look at the stream names over here, there's the dash. So everything to the right of that is the identifier. You can see it's device ID and then the plus sign and then start minute. And so that's just something to keep in mind as we go through the code. There is some duplicated information there, but it was a lot easier to work with the code if we duplicated the device ID and the start minute into the device video ID field. So anyway, this retrieve command comes in, and in this particular, so I've got 3 different workflows here. In this first one, no videos have been retrieved from the devices. And so the request comes in, I want you to get this video for me.
Ethan, there's some people waiting to get into the meeting. Can you let them in? Sorry.
Yeah, great, no worries. There is another name here that I don't recognize.
Gray Wilkins is the one I'm aware of.
Yeah, there was another who has since left. I want to pull this up because
Just to confirm all this.
Yeah,
Gray's genuine.
yeah, I remember him. So welcome, Gray. Welcome. Okay, cool. Scott, would you mind watching the people waiting room? Yeah. Okay, so because the video in question hasn't been fested, that's a new word. I don't know what that means, but it's fetched plus requested is fested. Requested, it makes a note, hey, this particular workflow, notice the workflow parameter there, has requested this video. Once something has requested it, it will fetch it. Fetching is going to be the term of actually getting it from the device. Once it has been fetched, now the job of this component is to tally up every request that is pending and to write a retrieved event for that request so that the composite flow here can say, oh, cool, it has retrieved it. So just like funds transfer an account, it'll make a copy of it.
The fetched represents it's fetched all of the segments.
No, fetched is down here in device video is for an individual segment.
A 1 minute piece.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
The lower stream here is the individual clips being retrieved from the device.
Okay.
And then this particular flow, we're just imagining has a second video that it needs to retrieve. And so same thing, same flow. Finally, we have them all, and then we can actually build the composite and make the built event. The URI in this event means here's where we stored the composite. The URI here in fetched is where we stored that individual clip.
So if you request a 30-minute video, you're gonna have 30 little drops
Yes.
into this. Okay,
Yeah,
got it.
you would.
But your fetched events indicate the location of individual pieces now in permanent cloud storage.
Yes, yeah,
And the build indicates the location of the final assembled.
that's
full
right.
video.
Also permanently stored in cloud now.
Okay, so you've
Yeah.
got a record of both the pieces, so you never have to retrieve them again, and the composite.
That's right. Yep,
The
exactly.
goal so you can reassemble the video you need later without
Yeah,
retrieving the same footage by breaking anything.
Or request a subsection of something you've already retrieved and not have to re-download.
I wish I had made a third slide as a visual for one of the things we'll do in the demo later on. But the actual code that we have, I have 3 short video clips in one of the repositories. And so we'll request a video that uses the first 2 and another video that uses the second 2. And what we'll end up seeing in the message store is that there were only 3 fetches because even though we needed this one twice, we only got it once. We won't actually be touching cell networks. We'll just do a sleep 30 in the code to, and maybe like a random failure. Just kidding. We're not doing that. So this workflow is what it looks like if the clip that you want has already been fetched. That's not very explicit here, except for this cool little note. So the composite gets its build command, it's initiated, it goes to retrieve the video. And when this component is handling this command, it's like, oh, this has already been fetched. I'll just directly write the retrieved event for it.
For the 1 minute clip.
Yeah. And then cool, now we can make our 1 clip composite, which, this probably wouldn't happen in practice, but it's just to demonstrate how it works. Now this one is 2 different composites are requesting the same clip, and the second request comes in while this clip is being fetched.
Wow.
So build, initiated, retrieve, requested, just like in the very first one, this component responds or handles the requested by beginning to fetch the clip from the device. During that time, a second one comes in, and this actually gets a little interesting here. So the second retrieve command down to device video causes this second requested to be written. So at this point, we have a requested and a requested. This one is being handled right now, and eventually it will succeed and the video will now be fetched. But let me draw another arrow here because this is important to keep track of. And this actually gets into the other slide that I made here. So, I mean, I made this, we're gonna look at it. 2 fundamental principles to keep in mind. A consumer handles only one message at a time, and it won't go on to the next one until it is finished with the first one. And messages are handled in the order that they were written for a given consumer in a category, okay? So that's really important here because when it is handling this one, it is fetching the clip, and right here, and when it writes it, it actually gets written after this requested, right? Because this came in before the fetch was complete. Everybody with me so far? Okay, so then the next thing that it does is it moves on to this requested. And part of the code that we'll look at, it's gonna say, hey, have I already fetched this video? Well, yes, I have. So it's gonna directly write the retrieved event, meaning that the second workflow actually gets notified of the video first.
How does it know that it's fetched before it's written the fetched message?
Because when we were handling this one, we fetched the video and wrote this event.
But that gets written after the requested message.
Right, yeah, this is why I put up the arrow and the remember only one event is getting handled at a time. So this event.
The second event is in a queue.
It is, exactly, yeah. This one's queued up and not being handled yet. It was written by the consumer up on the command stream who just dumped it into this event stream. So when this one completes, we'll have fetched the video and we record the fetched event. This handler is now done.
I see.
So it moves on to the next one. It will project the stream, find the fetched and be like, oh, hey, cool, this one's been fetched. Now I'll write my retrieved. Neat, that's done. So then it will move on to here and be like, hey, I have fetched the video. What am I supposed to do when I fetch the video? I notify every pending workflow that's still waiting for a response. And so it ends up writing the retrieved for the first workflow. And so now it can go on and complete.
But that means that the second request first gets answered as having been built.
It's
The
true.
second person to request something is the first one to get it.
If,
Not that it matters.
if that request happens while it's being fetched.
Right.
If it happened afterwards, then it wouldn't be that way. But
Right.
yeah, I looked at that, I was like, that is interesting how that plays out.
The first shall be last.
Exactly. It's a higher principle embodied by this component design. What did I want to say? So one night working on this, I drew this out and it's like, that sounds pretty good. And then the next morning I woke up in a panic. I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to fetch it twice because it's going to handle this and it won't have been fetched. Hey, Casey.
Hi.
But it won't.
I know that guy.
Chairs scattered around.
It won't because it only handles one event at a time.
If you try to parallelize what would happen.
Do you mean using the competing consumers thing?
Or just grouping, right?
Yeah.
So you've got multiple reads, but they're reads. And so the message store knows this one's handling this message, so I can send this message to you.
Yeah. Yeah, the way that works is the stream space gets divvied up among the consumers. So this instance will never try to handle messages that this message would, or this consumer would handle and vice versa. So you would get this exact same flow just on a subset. Yeah. Now, if you had like a super hot failover or fast hot failover setup where you had 2 instances trying to do the same work, you'd probably fetch it twice. But then if you're doing that,
Their occasional second download of a video is not nearly
yeah.
a catastrophe.
And if that fast of a failover is important, you're accepting the cost of that.
That's right.
Because there are reasons to do it.
Yeah.
Anyway, any questions about this? Because I think it gets a little twisty.
So if there's duplicate commands for retrieving it, why is the idempotence not at that point to prevent two requested? It's already been requested. Why not just reject the second one? Oh, it's because it's a different person.
Somebody
Yes.
else's request.
Right.
This is a failure in the diagram. As I was looking at it, I was like, should I put like actual labels on the values here, which typically isn't done?
I forgot about the workflow field.
Yeah. Which the workflow, where's that going to come from? If you're familiar with event type, there's the correlation stream name metadata. These commands are written with that, but this component copies it out of the metadata and puts it as an attribute on the event itself.
Do something like that.
Yep.
No, this is completely hypothetical. This has no relation
leaving
to the
that.
real world.
Yeah, we're just, he's making a comment because we're
talking
working
about-
on something like this today.
Okay.
Not for this
Metadata as an attribute.
application, but
Okay.
for a different thing.
The reason I did that is metadata is supposed to be about the mechanics of messaging. And so normally you don't even consciously think about it as you're coding something, but keeping track of which workflow it is very much the domain of this component. It needs to tell every pending request, hey, your thing is ready. And the only way to do that is to store it somewhere. And so I put it as
Track
an
of a
attribute.
workflow. That's a good way of describing it, keeping track of a workflow. Because we have something that there are multiple steps. You can add multiple accounts in a single stream.
And accounts.
Yeah, there are a hierarchical set of accounts, and we have to descend as low as they send them to us.
Okay.
And so we repeat, and so we have to keep track of where we are in the workflow, and we've used the metadata by copying it on as an attribute.
Oh,
And at first at least me, I was like, but it seems like the right thing to do, so.
I think it's legit. So if we're
Good.
wrong, we're wrong together. So that is the how to only do the expensive operation once. The bonus is that this handler down here, and in fact, this one up here as well, you don't know how many work items you're going to have to do with one of these commands. It could be a 10-minute span. It could be a 1-minute span, which then you should just clip. You don't need to make a composite for that. But that's the UX question, and we certainly don't care about those in this meetup. No, I'm just kidding. So typically, like in the account component, you open the account. There's one thing that you check, you do the one thing, you move on to the next. But in this case, you have a variable number of clips that you might need to retrieve, a variable number of workflows that you need to notify. And I mean, the TLDR of it, there is looping involved, but you need to make sure that each iteration of the loop is also idempotent. Otherwise, you'll get duplicated results. Something that came out of it in the code, though, is kind of an interesting, there's this one handler. I just really want to get everybody excited for this, so I'm going to tease it right now. There's a handler where it's not readily obvious that it's idempotent, but it is. What could that be? All right.
I'm really excited about this because we've been working on something similar. So I'm wondering like
Not
what-
readily
Yeah.
visible idempotence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone who knows audio needs to give Ethan 2 sound effects, a drum roll and a didn't.
I'll make you
All of his
some of
jokes
those.
would land and all of his build-ups.
Where's your button, like your panel that you want to get where you can just push a button or do things?
Oh, the stream deck?
Yeah, you need
That's on my desk. I should bring that to the meetup.
the same.
Okay, which component do you want to go through first and actually look at the code?
Go in order.
Composite first?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. Is this readable in the back, or do you want to go more?
I'm good.
Get up there, Naneem.
I'll slide up here, but
Okay,
are we, yeah, are we recording this?
we are.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so let's see. Where should we start? Probably in the handlers. So the composite component, let's look at the consumers, has 3 consumers. It needs to consume its own command stream, its own event stream, and then also the events from device video, which is analogous to funds transfer, does the same thing, but it also consumes account events.
Sometimes.
Oh yeah, that's probably worth calling out. So the convention in the event type components is if you have, say, a handler just called commands, that means these are my commands. And if you're handling something from another component, you make a folder named after that component, so it's the device video component. And then what am I handling? I'm handling its events. Or what am I consuming? I'm consuming its events. You would never handle the commands of another component. That's just a violation of all the design rules. Not even gonna put an asterisk on that one. All right, so let's come here to the command handlers, standard prelude stuff for a component. And this isn't a particularly interesting one. We get the build command. Which composite are we working on? We project it. Have we already written the initiated event? If not, let's go ahead and write it. We build the stream name that we're going to write it to. And then here's where we set the correlation stream name on the initiated event. We'll talk about this one because strictly speaking, the initiated event doesn't need to have that piece of metadata, but it makes something later easier to do it this way. The correlation stream name again is how, when you have a component like device video, like the account component, there could be lots of other components that need to do something with that. And the other components just pub subbing out these events. Hey, I did this. Hey, I did this. As a client of that component, how do I know which of the events it's kicking off happened because I told it to do something? So if I'm a funds transfer and I see an account withdrawal, how do I know that withdrawn event happened because of me, or maybe it happened because of the overdraft fee charge, or maybe it happened because they purchased something? I don't care about those events for a funds transfer. The mechanism in event type to do that is you write a correlation stream name metadata property, and you set that equal to your stream name. So in this case, this is a composite dash identifier stream name. And then when you start your consumer, here's where we start the device video consumer in the composite component. You set this correlation option with the category, with your category. And so then when you're pulling MessageDB for events, it'll only show you ones that have a correlation stream name in your category. So you won't see, if there's some other process grabbing these videos, you won't see events from that. So any questions about this handler? This is about as much fun as a PR is. And so maybe it's fire hose, you don't know what questions to ask, but I'm sure that if you have a question, somebody else.
This is much funner than a PR.
Is it? Okay.
I didn't know you could configure handlers like that. That's pretty neat.
Configure them like what?
You mean the consumer?
Sorry, the consumer.
Oh,
Yeah, when you
yeah.
go back up to where you were.
This one.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of additional properties that you can pass into it optionally.
This identifier one is actually pretty important.
Yep.
Because in this method, it's not just the event type method, but in an event source system, typically it's the consumers that are keeping track of their own position. It's not the message storage mechanism that is keeping track of that, because that has problems. Networks fail, acknowledgement messages get lost. And the way that event type does it by default, the way event type does it, you'd have to actually write some serious code to get it to not do it this way. Those positions are stored in a position stream that belongs to the consumer. And that position stream normally is just named after the category that's being consumed. However, when you have an afferent component like device video or the account component, you could imagine there could be 10 different things consuming its events. If you just name it after the category that's being consumed, you've got 10 components who are all trying to put their position into the same stream, which means they're going to collide with each other. When you add this identifier, composite now becomes part of the position stream name. So you're not going to have 10 composite components trying to read from the same category there. So if you ever have this thing where you're consuming another component's events, your consumer, you want to put that identifier on there, unless you like debugging mysterious weird things.
My favorite.
On restart, it'd be really exciting. Which position do you get?
Yeah, right? who wants determinism in their systems?
Do people understand what he was talking about, or maybe would it help to like put example stream names up to, or I don't know.
Yeah, totally. Let's talk about it in more detail because we don't have time.
Or if we don't have time, we could go.
No, we got it.
Okay, I was just
So
curious.
the consumer keeps track of where it is by writing its position to a position stream.
That's right.
A separate stream, just for keeping track of where it is.
That's right. And by
If you have
default,
multiple consumers, you need to identify who you are.
that's right. Yeah, so,
I think seeing the stream
yeah.
name itself will help you understand what's happening.
Is it safe to assume that you should always plan for multiple consumers?
No, you don't always need to, but in the case where you've got a component that's general purpose, where its events are being looked at by other pub sub users, or other components care about the events that are being emitted, it's like being orchestrated by multiple things, then that's when you need to care about multiple identifiers for its positions.
But you can't predict the future, and somebody may care later and you haven't done it.
Well, it's the
Then you don't have to
consumer,
go back and
it's the
modify.
consumer responsible for, like, the account component isn't saying, okay, set up a bunch of identifiers for things. It's the person that's consuming an exterior or an external stream that says, I am writing to this specific thing with my identifier to keep track of how much I read that stream.
So it's okay for the first one to do it, to not use an identifier.
Right.
So long as nobody else doesn't also not use an
To
identifier.
clarify, first typically is if somebody's consuming their own events, if as a matter of best practice, if you're consuming some external stream, it's better to always put the identifier.
Or if you think people may screw up later, put one for yourself, so if they don't use one, they haven't messed up
I
your
suppose.
position.
You could do that. It's not a bad idea.
I think it's a bit defensive.
Yes.
Yes.
It's just one word.
No, but yeah, like the mental approach, I think you should be practicing better engineering practices than extreme defenses like that.
Well, but when you worked with a group of engineers,
I work with a group of engineers.
you don't have control over their best practices. You only have control over yours.
We control each other and help each other have great practices, actually.
So if somebody causes the bug for you, and you go explain to them why they should have.
That's an and-on card.
That is an opportunity for everybody to discover if there needs to be any adjustments in processes or discussion of norms to make sure that everybody understands.
It reveals that the system,
So if you
You're just describing reality, but that response.
Bron's proud.
I'm very, yeah, I'm excited.
If I had gone and used an identifier when I didn't need one, because I was the first and thought I would be the only consumer, and I added one anyway, somebody else misses a learning opportunity.
Yeah, you might have something that's technically broken, you don't know it until 6 months down the road. Hopefully you would find ways to find that quicker.
Right.
A common pattern that you'll see all throughout Eventide is that when you have an unqualified thing, that thing belongs to the component that you're in or whatever, right? So here I put up an example position stream name. So if I started this consumer without the identifier, the stream name in the position messages to go into MessageDB would literally be that device video position.
But there is the potential here for someone else to write a consumer and disrupt my consumer
There is possible, yeah.
if they use.
And to be clear, it would only happen on restart. Or like a crash restart, so anything that restarted the component, that's the danger zone. Outside of that, when the component's running, it keeps its exact position of where it's at and then just periodically stores it.
Right.
Yeah. And by
It's if it needed to reload it from the message store.
by
It's if it
default,
restarted, it's like, okay,
Well-
where was I at?
But crashing and restarting is supposed to be relatively common, so,
It's supposed to be acceptable, yes.
yeah.
by default.
wouldn't say common, but acceptable.
Yeah. By default, it writes its position every 100 messages. That's configurable. You can set how often it should set the position, but it writes to that position stream once every 100 messages.
What's
that it reads.
ours at? Is it 1,000?
If you don't change it, it's 100.
Okay.
By adding the identifier parameter, that changes the
It adds an identifier to the position stream name that matches whatever string you passed in. So I don't set an identifier when I'm consuming my own events. No one better be consuming my own commands because that's crossing the streams. That's very bad.
Someone might be consuming your events though, and that's when you would say, hey, you need to.
Right, that's their responsibility to do that.
And just, sorry, just for the record, the position store could be something else. It doesn't have to go to the message store. Position store could be something like store it in Redis or store it somewhere else. Like it's whatever works. It's just by default, and the most easiest way to do it is something that's already exists. Hey, message store, it's right there.
I don't think that one's readily configurable in event type. Like you'd have to actually like subclass the consumer or something.
Possibly. I don't think it'd be super convenient, but it is.
It is doable.
It is doable.
Yeah.
Something I've wondered about MessageDB. So those position streams, do those ever get cleaned up? Like presumably you only need the latest position of the consumer, right?
There's no automated process that does it, but absolutely, yeah.
So it'd be like compaction in a Kafka topic. You'd have to roll your own.
If you designed the system right, then restarting from the beginning of the stream shouldn't be a big deal, right? Because you have idempotence checks and everything in place so that starting over from the beginning of the stream shouldn't be harmful. It's more.
You may just pay a startup penalty.
Yeah, the position streams are purely a performance improvement.
Sure.
On restart. Good questions. That's some good discussion there. I was afraid we just like walk through, look, and this line of code does this. Isn't that exciting? Okay, cool. So build, command handler, not super interesting. So then we move on to the events when we handle our initiated event. We need to know which entity we're dealing with. We'll need this device ID because that's how we know which device we're retrieving something from. We project the stream, and then this is not the one that doesn't look idempotent, but actually is. This one isn't idempotent, and that is, hang on before you get out the pitchforks here. All we're doing is writing a command here. Our downstream is idempotent, so we don't care. It's wasted a messages short. With more time, I probably would have made it, because if we've already retrieved the clip, we don't need to send the command again, even though sending the command again is perfectly safe. It is wasted events, and if I had more time, I would have put that check in, but I didn't. So
we'll pretend that.
So composite is the entity that we've projected, and it has a start minutes member on it that we iterate over.
Well, you're saying that you would have had you had time.
Yeah.
Why?
Because it offends my sensibilities to have the duplicated commands. It's purely an aesthetic thing. You'll see it. They waste storage. And this system is so heavily in use that level of storage matters. That's it.
Thanks.
I mean, it's also a good practice, like good engineering practice, right? Like I want to be the custodian of the code and the resources. So if there's a reasonable means to make it idempotent or whatever, you should probably do so.
I agree with that.
There are also operational concerns. So we do something and we tend to write. We've discussed this in depth and imagine a situation where you have 100 of these streams and you end up with a component that's crashing. And I don't know what your deployment strategy is or if you have any sort of supervisor watching these processes, but like we do, we run them on Kubernetes pods. And so when one crashes, guess what? It restarts. And then it crashes again, and then it restarts. And then it crashes again, and it restarts. And so it's not just the extra 100 or whatever messages that get written, but it's the extra 100 messages times however many crashes happen in between then and then. So that's the primary reason we do it, aside from the reasons everybody else mentioned it, is a defense against not just spurious messages every once in a while, but a whole swarm of them if we get a crash loop, which when event type components crash, they usually keep crashing because if there's a bug.
Can you scroll up? I want to see what you have above where it says stitch configure, what, dependency above there.
Yeah. No component should ever be released. Scott says, not you, Scott, Scott Miller says, no component should ever be released without passing a final inspection. There should never be a component built by a single person that no other person has inspected. There's no such thing as a component that has been released that is not under the control of the whole org and that the seniors in the org are not considered personally responsible for. The leaders have to put their engineering certification stamp on a component and all the personal engineering liabilities that certification entails. It's also the senior's responsibility to develop the pre-release checklist for components. Every architecture comes with its inherent process. Be careful of accidentally using the agile web development with Ruby on Rails process with service-oriented architecture. Make the process explicit. Amen. Okay, Brian, to your question, this stitch here is a class that I wrote to actually build the composite video. And it's a useful object.
Okay. So that's where you're getting.
Yeah, we'll have a look at it in a little bit, what it does. Actually, for like the purposes of the messaging pattern that we're showing, we don't actually need to look at it, but we will because it's cool. Actually, we're going to actually make a composite video from some clips. All right, so let's see. Initiated, I borrowed the pattern that is in the account component example with the command classes. And so this retrieve is actually coming from the device video components client. It is a helper class that makes it so that up here in composite, all I need to worry about is the parameters, not, oh, I construct this message and then set these attributes on it. And then, oh, the command stream would be this, and then I write it. We very well could have just built a retrieve command, which is what the device video component calls it here. But this is nicer to work with. And the bit I mentioned about how initiated has the correlation stream name on it when technically doesn't need it. And I said it makes something else a little bit easier. This is where it makes it a little bit easier. This component right here, not component, this helper class uses the previous message and follows it, which will copy over the correlation stream name. Otherwise, we would have to manually do that up here, which would be hard because we would have to actually construct the message ourselves and set that if we didn't set it on the previous event. All right, so that sends the retrieve command down to the other component. So let's go into that component real quick. Let me close that file and I'll just reopen them. Oh, there's another chat miss, or is this, no, that's the same one. Okay, so down in this component then, what is going on? Here we go. It has a command handler file. And this one could be refactored. The if else turned out kind of weird. I ran out of time. So the essential from today is the messaging flow, not the particulars of this. So don't copy this part, don't copy anything. Like take it in, see if it applies to what you're doing and if it makes sense. So the way we handle the retrieve command, well, which device video are we dealing with? And then we specifically call out which workflow requested or is asking us to retrieve this. We will project the device video. And now here's where we get the branching logic. Have we previously fetched this? Let's start with no, because that's what would happen first. This handler has to be idempotent in a few different, I mean, it has to be overall idempotent, but there's different states it could be handling when it sees a retrieve command. So we haven't fetched it, but have we already recorded that this workflow requested it though? We don't want to see duplicate requested events for the same workflow. That would be incorrect. So that's what's going on here. Okay, cool. Well, if we haven't fetched it and we haven't previously recorded the request, we just record the request. Does that make sense? The rest of it here? So like this section of it looks like what you'd see in a typical handler.
Yeah.
All right. Cool, let's move on then. We'll come back to this one. This component handles its own events. So let's actually call that out real quick. The consumer here, no, it's in the start file, not the consumer file. Notice when it starts its consumer on its own events, it doesn't specify that identifier. This is the only component that we allow to do that. And by we allow, that is human practices and processes, there's no automated thing that does that. All right, so we've got a requested event that we're handling now. So some workflow, please don't let the doctrine of useful objects turn into that's a useful object. It's just an object. Otherwise, it's going to become the next mindless fad like service objects. The useful objects write-up is just an article on OO design and some utility libraries that you can use to get a jump start, but it's nothing special unless you erase an ORM. Fair enough. I'll strike that from.
I'm gonna start a Twitter trend on useful object now.
Hashtag useful object. All right, so the composite has told us to retrieve the video. We made a record of the request that it was requested, and now we are handling our requested event. So same sort of preamble, which device video are we? Get that identifier. These are a couple of variables we'll need later on. We project. Have we already fetched this? Not yet, because this is our first time through. If that's the case, then we're going to actually fetch it. So fetch is just an object. And it does the work of fetching the video. If you'd like to see what the work of fetching the video looks like, that's it. It sleeps for 30 seconds. That's going to be too long. Let's make it 10 seconds. No, we need that. We'll make it 15. So there's just a delay, and then it returns a file path to where the fetched video was. That is not that far-fetched. If you retrieved it, you would, so I just wanted to let that hang there a little bit.
You really do need like a little soundboard.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, so I don't think this part of the flow is all that dissimilar from what a real system doing this would look like. You would have to fetch it at some point, and you would then need to store where you placed it when you were done. So we just get the URI that it was stored at, and then we write that into a fetched event and write that to the message store. Cool, now we have a record that we fetched it. We have it in our cloud now. Isn't that great? It is great. So then the next thing we would do is we would handle that fetched event in this same handler and consumer. What do we have to do when we get our fetched? Well, we have to, for every request that has come in for that video, we need to send it, well, we're not sending it a retrieve. We are just mentioning, hey, it was retrieved and tagging it with the workflow in question. So this is the one where it may not appear idempotent at first, but it is in fact idempotent. We get the device video ID that we're working from. We project the entity. I don't know that I want to dive into the particulars of the projection, but if there are any questions, please tell me. We will dive into the particulars of the projection. One second, I need to take this real quick. Hey kiddo, is it an emergency? Okay, can I call you back? Okay, love you. Bye.
Could be.
Okay, not an emergency, that's good. All right, so we're getting the train of thought here. The device video entity gets projected, and as part of that, it will see requested events, it will see retrieved events. So it needs to keep track of what unfulfilled workflows it has. Oh. The entity encapsulates the business logic, and the business logic of this entity is that it needs to know who has and hasn't been told that its video has been fetched. And so it provides an unfulfilled workflows method that you can call with a block to iterate over each unfulfilled workflow. So the component is concerned with doing the bookkeeping on which ones haven't been fulfilled. That the entity shouldn't know anything about messaging. It knows what hasn't been fulfilled. But here in the handler, we shouldn't be thinking about how the entity stores that list. We just want to say, hey, entity, I need to do something for each of your unfulfilled workflows. So the entity takes the block and calls the block with each workflow that hasn't yet been fulfilled. So how is this idempotent then? There's no explicit if this has been done, blah, blah, blah. How is this one idempotent? What would make something be an unfulfilled workflow? It would be the absence of what event? If we go back to the diagram here. Which of these events says to device video, this one has been retrieved, exactly. So it's projected, and this one is probably actually worth looking at.
So you were gonna show us the projection.
I know.
Sounds like it's pretty important.
Yeah, we pulled showing the projection into existence.
Ta-da.
There was a demonstrated need for it, so we did it. The projection calls this retrieved method on the device video with the workflow that has been retrieved. So by definition, then, the only workflows that we would be called for in this block are the ones that have not already been fulfilled. Does that make sense? The entity is not going to call our block if it saw a retrieved event for that workflow. Normally when we do idempotence, we're just.
Attribute on the entity.
What was that?
Can you show the attributes on the entity?
Yeah, do that. We are running out of screen space though. Let me come up here and. It's not one of these attributes up here, but there is an object here called requests. Nope, that's requests. Oh, no. We use that for a retrieve as well. So when you request it, we make an entry for the workflow and give it the symbol requested. When we retrieve it, we set it to retrieved instead of requested.
I'm guessing unfulfilled, just filters or something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's not an attribute?
Welcome to Ruby. You don't have to have parentheses to call a function.
No, I know, but.
Oh, yeah, it's not
in the list of attributes. You've created this.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
This thing that lives with the entity, but it's not.
It looks like
an
request
attribute.
is the attribute. It's used the term loosely.
It's a class variable, right?
Yeah.
Or instance variable,
yeah.
The two apps for the class, instance variable.
So exactly right. Yeah, it won't call your action if it has seen a retrieved event for that particular workflow request. And that is how this handler is idempotent.
One word of caution on not making it an attribute. I believe if you were ever to venture into snapshotting, you would run into trouble here because it would not be serializing that.
That's a good point. I'm gonna make a note of that.
But nobody can snapshot.
By not making this an attribute, it won't get picked up by snapshotting.
Maybe you start that with the word warning colon.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. So then for the ones that have been, or that aren't yet fulfilled, we construct an event for them, a retrieved, set the workflow on it and everything. And this, what? Isn't there? We build up an array of messages that we're going to write to this device video stream. And because we can write multiple messages to the same stream atomically, we just collect all of the requests that are now fulfilled and write them. So if there were 10 of them, we just, in one transaction, throw those all in there in a batch, yeah. That line wasn't harming anything. It was wasted cycles. And that's why you work with other people and not just by yourself. Anyway, so are we in agreement that this is an idempotent handler?
Seems that way.
Okay. We'll see it in practice. All right, so now we have informed the other component that its thing has been retrieved. So we can come back to it. Now it's got a handler on device videos events. So you can see handle many, many characters because we have to do all the namespacing. We get the correlation stream name off of that device video would have propagated for us. If we didn't get a correlation stream name, I put this in here in test reasons to catch errors, but in practice, we couldn't possibly get an event to this handler unless the correlation stream name was set, because MessageDB would have filtered it out because we started the consumer with the correlation parameter. But with that, then we use messaging stream name to extract the ID from the correlation stream name. We fetch our entity, we check to see if we've already recorded in the composite stream that this has been retrieved. And if we haven't, we write it. We make it our own retrieved. That's why we have to do some explicit namespacing here, because otherwise we'd have a collision on retrieved and retrieved. And we just make a record of that in our own stream. Any questions about that one? So that's like funds transfer and account. When funds transfer sees, say, a withdrawn that it's caused to be, it copies the relevant data into a withdrawn in its own stream so that it can drive its process from its own stream. Okay. And then we move on to handling the composite retrieved event. So typical flow, which composite are we dealing with? We fetch it. We have a few different things that we need to check for. One is, have we already built the composite? We don't need to do anything else in here. We know it's done. We are recycling a message, move on. But if we haven't already built it, we need to know, do I have all of my clips? Have all of my clips been retrieved? So the entity that we project is picking up these, so the projection is projecting these retrieved events by calling appropriate methods in the entity to say, hey, this one has been retrieved, this one has been retrieved. And there's a method on the entity that true or false will tell us, do we have all of the clips that we need to make this composite? If we don't, we're not doing anything because we can't. So this one isn't an idempotence check. It's just a, do we have everything we need to act on? And this is the bonus. Like, how do we handle this when there's a variable number of things to do? How do we check it? I mean, it's nothing messaging specific about it.
6 or 7 times, it's never going to come over. You'd have to write some.
True. We don't handle the error checking in this right now. So do not operationalize this system, but nobody would, because this is a purely hypothetical example that doesn't match anything that any real company in the real world is doing.
We're suffering from right now.
Yeah.
timing on this is ghostly, you know that, right?
So then,
Almost like he used to work somewhere.
yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So if we haven't built it, the only way we would get to line 51 is if we haven't already built it and we have all of our clips now, we are ready to finally make the composite. So we have this stitch object that takes the composite ID as well as the URIs. The entity doesn't have anything to do with actually building a composite. It's a data object.
Remind me how it knows if something's been built yet. What's that method do on 41?
That is a great question. So there are the terminal event in this flow is a built event. And so the projection would pick up the built, and I'm not dealing with times like
Okay.
the count component, it just sets it to true in the
That makes
projection.
sense.
Good question, though. So this call right here will actually stitch it together and store it somewhere and return the URI of where that is stored. We have the thing, we have the URI. We make our built event to record that, and then we write it. And we're done.
Pretty cool.
Did you want to see it in action?
Yeah.
I at the very least want to see the test ran.
Yeah, that's true. What about the tests?
Where are you?
They are there. And I just want to go meta here.
Test.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I switched back up to show where the tests are.
Okay.
They're all in here. And then there's some interactive tests to help with it as well. But these passed several times as I was writing this. Oh my gosh.
I'm here to jinx you.
What?
Is it that line you removed?
It's that line of code you removed.
Well, this was actually part of the intended,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I actually tuned into some of his live streams and I saw the test passing, so I was like.
yeah, gazillion times.
So.
And I swear, I obviously didn't run this. I was rushing and not diligent. I don't really want to debug this right now.
Yeah, we can go,
Okay, I will debug it though and push up a fix for it and mention what the thing was. I'm sorry about that. That's not good. Start.
I thought Casey was just gonna call you out.
No, I wasn't beginning to. I legit, I was even run the test and I knew they were passing, so, well, okay, I hadn't. Seen everything he did, but I saw him previously, so I was like, yeah, let's see some green, you know?
Clearly, I changed something this morning, in the wee hours of the morning. Oh, come on. I have to wait for a timeout thing. Does this one work?
So don't.
Hey, there's a bunch of tests.
There's your green.
Nice.
Yeah.
Are you actually getting it to stitch with FFmpeg? Did you get that to work?
Not in the test there, but we will when we actually run the component. So in tests, we don't do it. So, curses.
Put the clips up on Amazon and use a Lambda.
Just need to make this window larger so we can see what's going on. All right, so there's a couple of interactive tests we're going to run. This first one lets you specify the start minute and the end minute on the command line. And those, what are those? They're strings, they're ISO 8601 that drops both the fractional seconds and the time zone information. Because we're assuming one time zone, because in my perfect world, there would be one time zone. And you just, if you don't like that, you can write your own composite video project. And then the minute increments as minutes do, and the seconds are always 0. So one of these videos could span a day, and so that's why I thought it was important to include the date. So this will write a build command with those start minutes, and we can go to MessageDB and see it's there. And then I have this other one,
timeout, Tmux, there we go. This one will use predetermined minutes. So let's come here and see what those are. One of them is from arbitrarily, this is October 22nd of this year at midnight and then midnight 1 minute. I wasn't doing this at midnight. It's visually, it's easier to see if everything's a zero except for the one column.
I mean, even if you were doing it at midnight, that's okay.
Yeah. So let's see, this command is going, okay, so this command is the 0th minute and the 1st minute. This one is the 1st minute and the 2nd minute. And so then we can start this component. And what did it do? For each of the builds, it writes an initiated. So this initiated corresponds to that one, this one, to that one. And then each of those has 2 clips that it's using to build its composite. So we see 4 retrieve commands. Yeah. All right. So isn't it neat that the device video component not being available didn't actually interfere with the operation of the composite component? Oh, yes, that is quite wonderful.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay.
Sure glad that works that way.
Yeah. All right, so let's spin up the device video component. Are you ready for an explosion of messages? So the requesteds came in. We're waiting 15 seconds to simulate cellular connectivity. It ain't cheap fetching a video file in time or money. So
I thought 2 of those requested should have come in after the fetch. So what's your pseudo event model again?
No, that's the retrieve.
Oh, the retrieve.
Is this the event-tide meetup?
It is.
Yeah.
You guys want to come work at the best company in Utah? I'm
Right.
sorry to interrupt. I'm Cody Coonrod. I'm the new product leader at LVT. I started like a month ago, and this is the coolest company I've ever worked at. So, sorry, shameless plug, but I'm just.
Thank you, Cody. You wanna grab something to eat?
We got pizza.
I would, but I've been eating nothing but candy out of the snack bin all day. So, that's great. Well, thank you guys for coming out. Yeah.
Thank you, Cody, for dropping in.
Okay, that was my contribution. Good luck, guys.
Thanks. Okay, so I refreshed a little bit ago and it fetched 2 of the videos and wrote the appropriate retrieved messages for that. And then it fetches the next one. And right, I'm just looking at the types. I'm like, oh, why is it duplicating messages? Device video has a couple of retrieves. There's one backup in composite, another one from device video, and then the last couple of ones from composite. This all checks out. Like this, I ran 10 times this morning and didn't make any changes except for deleting that one line, which is, that one's not the culprit. It's something to do with the substitute. And then we see our termination events, these built events. And if we click on one of them, it has a URI. Should we see what this is?
Clips too.
I mean,
Are we gonna see
that's
this
an
face?
interesting URI.
It is a uniform resource indicator. It doesn't have a protocol on it. You're right.
I'm missing something, but that's okay.
In a real scenario, you would not be storing them on a laptop. The focus is on the messaging flow.
I'm sorry, I can't help myself.
You can forget your file : // You don't need that here.
All right. Hang on a sec, this is really important. I'm gonna stop sharing and then I'm gonna start again and make sure I'm sharing the sound, yep.
Optimize.
What? To share your compute, please install, are you kidding me?
There's a new audio device?
Apparently.
Spyware.
And before I do this, you all knew it was coming.
I
actually don't know.
Where's the soundboard?
It's so high right now.
Yep.
So there's gonna be a little glitch right there. That's not because it's glitching, that's because it's separating the video in the beginning. If anybody noticed, it only goes 20 seconds. Yes, the actual videos.
All the glitches on Zoom are Zoom's fault, by the way. The video on Ethan's screen is smooth.
These were 2 10-second clips.
Yes, I didn't actually do full minute saved ones. I just named them as if they had been the minute. The little like glitch that you saw was I found a website where you can download a YouTube video. That's neat. And then used FFmpeg to split it, but I did it on a particular time, which they say don't split things on a particular time. Frames and keyframes matter. So that's why you saw that little slide there. But
it works.
It works. That actually happened. I don't know if that was convincing, but in this component down here, there's this video data where the 10-second clips are. And then we can open, I'll turn the volume down. I mean, one Rickroll is enough.
It's an MVP, Ethan, ship it.
Here is the other one. So volume down. It starts off with Mr. Astley's foot there. And this one, you'll notice.
Mr. Permission.
What?
I don't think permission.
Oh, right. Open that. This one starts out with Dancing Lady because that happens to be at 10 seconds into the video. Anyway. Cool, yeah, that's. Okay, so great, it worked once. Let's kill one of the components and restart it. And that was the device video component. So no new messages appeared. However, if we were to restart the composite component, we will see those duplicate retrieve messages. So this build was the last one. We see the 4 retrieves being rewritten, but you'll see that device video did not try to reprocess those. It's like, oh, I already did this. So if you remember in composite, the initiated handler isn't idempotent. It just blindly rewrites.
That's what you would have done if you had more time.
You skipped that. Okay, that's the one that you said you skipped for convenience in producing this demonstration.
Ran out of time, basically, yeah.
And it wouldn't be too hard to add, I don't think.
It wouldn't, especially now that everything's done. So, I mean, we could do that. Let's do it. Yeah, we've still got a little bit of time here. So this is the component. Normally I would change the test first to reflect this. So your presentation from 2 months ago has left a mark on me, man. I'm serious. I mean, I wrote tests before, but it's just doing it step by step, like you showed, everything, the pieces start to click so much better. So, what would we be looking? Oh, no, sorry. I don't have anything on the entity to check this yet. So I'm not going to do it, but basically there would be something in here that's like, if already did this one. I guess the takeaway is if you've got, I guess it would be if, continue because we're in a loop. When you have a variable number of things, what next? Thank you. Oh, that's a nice. Then, yeah. Next, and then there'd be a log message. So when you have a variable number of things, you need a loop. You just need to make sure that you just need to strike the word just. Something that to make it idempotent, each iteration of the loop needs to be idempotent. And so you can't do necessarily a check at the beginning to cover the whole loop. It's just like you take the standard handler and put it inside of whatever your loop is.
When you finish this, could you maybe open source it with nice licensing for maybe companies that could, use it?
Wait for it. in the other one,
Like, that looks like a default gem file.
it's MIT. So, I mean, if at some future time, because this is a completely irrelevant example to anybody's actual company.
Yeah.
You needed to use this, you would be. free
It
to
is
do that.
missing some important things like
Oh, yeah.
videos that we'll never download.
True.
And actually connecting to a device to get it, we just do seat 15 there.
Framework.
What's funny is the work has already been done to optimize the parts that aren't doing that yet. So
Well, tell me about the project that's being done right now.
Do you want to talk about that right now in a recorded Zoom meeting? That's
yeah, we'll go later.
That's a good point.
Recorded in our meeting so that everybody can hear proprietary information.
Yep.
This
This is nothing to do with what we do here.
This is totally out of thin air.
It'll be
Not
GTL by morning.
But please work for us apparently.
Right. This is the stitching. This needs error checking and proper handling and everything. Just put it together quickly. It just shells out to FFmpeg. And this, like, because they're MP4 files, you actually have to write a text file with the files that you're going to concatenate together. It can't just take them at the command line, or at least that I could find, and what various Stack Exchange question and answers were saying. So we have to build a text file in which we could look at what one of those looks like.
Just with the file before each path.
Yeah, that's right.
You can do it if you have them as a bunch of substreams, but it gets really messy looking. But so the file way is way easier.
Oh, boy. Here, let me just do this. The file ends up looking like that file, and then the full path to the clip. So we have to generate that. And then invoke FFmpeg and then return the output file so that we can write that into our built event. But anyway, that's that. This code is available. Zoom controls are always where you don't want them to be. At GitLab, such software do expensive things once. The 2 repositories are there. I will fix whatever that test issue was.
You need to like buy you a hot chocolate link or something now.
What was that?
You need to like buy you a hot chocolate link.
Oh, yeah.
Now.
Sign up for my Patreon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you like what you saw, be sure to smash that like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitch. Seriously, I'm like 18 followers away from affiliate, which they make really easy to get you hooked on the platform. Yeah. No, that's not what it's about. But
Well, you're 17 now because I didn't know you were doing this until today. So.
oh, sweet. So
16. I'll go for 15 accounts.
you can write a component for that for the next. Any questions or comments or?
That was fun.
Was it?
Yes, it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, that was.
Like absolutely fun. Yeah.
Super cool.
Okay.
I got next, right?
Are you taking a recommendation for the next one?
I would love that. Yes.
Okay, we'll send you some use cases.
Yeah, please do.
Anybody else can do it. I've presented at one of these already. Like
Yeah,
anybody else
please
wants to
do.
go ahead.
We produced a visual of using orchestrators and simple components to orchestrate between business domains. That would be a lot of fun to discuss, and we would love for people to try to poke holes in it. So we could present that at some point.
Is that something you could present?
Obfuscate it.
I could easily obfuscate any details about LiveView.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
make it very generic.
I would just like run that by Brett before you do
Didn't we
it.
have
I mean, not that I know who you would
Yeah.
run that by because this is all hypothetical.
Right.
Steve would probably be a good one. Steve wants us to try to contribute back as much as we can.
Okay.
And so as long as we remove any specific things, I think he'd be fine. with
Okay. But yeah, to Scott's point, anyone can present at this meetup. Even folks online, if you want to present something, we'd love to not have me presenting all the time, for many reasons. But yeah, please do. Let me take a note to do that Google form for topic ideas.
I think this example was much better than deposit and withdraw.
I think you're biased, okay?
It may seem relevant to your hypothetical domains.
Yeah, no, there's some cool nuances here though, like the thing where you just loop over retrieves until you're done and then you do the build and some other things.
It's got some batching.
Right.
Yeah.
Like a deposit loop, that would be fun.
Yeah. Can I be, are you muted?
I thought anyone could unmute.
I thought anyone could unmute.
Are we not able to?
It'll be GPL by morning. Oh, no.
I can ask him to unmute.
Yeah, try it, see what happens.
I don't think we can unmute you, Scott.
Unless it was more of just like him asking if he could say something.
Are you the host? Because the host, I think, can.
Try turning it off and back on.
I think for like privacy security reasons, they wouldn't let a remote participant.
No, that makes sense. I know, okay, so you can do the inverse. You can mute them, of
Right.
course, but.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that would be a little weird if you could unmute someone else.
Mm-hmm.
It's like turning on someone else's camera.
This mobile client won't let him unmute.
Oh, no.
And there's something
That stinks, Scott.
When I'm using the mobile client, I swipe in the right direction and it goes to
Swipe to the left or right.
Yeah.
Swipe some way.
And so there's the big circle.
Scott, did
To
you?
the left has the scroll, you can push the button.
Oh, Scott left.
Something.
He might be
He's gonna
coming back.
rejoin.
Yeah.
Okay. It is recorded, Atul. Thanks for joining.
Admit Scott.
I'll get it posted up in the next day or so. Go ahead, Scott.
Oh, sorry. I just had to reboot the iOS client. Is Aaron still here?
Yes.
Aaron, I think a pretty cool, talk and it or a half talk might be, a demo of the MessageDB viewer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially
I've heard lots of
using-
cool things about it, and I would love to see it.
Especially using Ethan's example components that he just wrote, given that it's familiar. We wouldn't have to write some arbitrary or artificial set of messages.
Is it similar to Stream Explorer?
Yes.
What if we demoed both on the same night?
Yeah.
If he says it's a half demonstration, then show the other one.
What's a Stream Explorer? What's that?
So the stream, I forgot we call it stream viewer that Aaron put together is more live, if you will, focuses on the most recent messages. String Explorer uses a collection of aggregators to be more permanent, if you will. So you can show me every category that has ever been written to the message store across all time, kind of a thing.
You can drill down as you need to, but there's like a visualization of the events and then you can see causation events as well.
Oh, he's added to it.
Yeah.
It's
It's pretty cool.
Okay.
And we have had an engineer talking,
Should be.
if he could put a visualization.
I don't know. I'd have to
into
ask
an
Matthew.
event- An event model
that's something you
form
can
on the
totally
screen,
open
he thinks it
source.
wouldn't be that hard.
Really.
I think he
I
set it up.
don't think
Source
any of
layout.
this, none of this should allow Aaron Jensen to get off the hook for demo.
Oh, agreed.
No.
You have to see how cool the arrows are that's in his app. Super.
I want to see, I legitimately want to see both.
Yeah.
I mean that seriously. I like them.
I think the two tools fill very different use cases. Like Stream Explorer, you have to run a set of data aggregators and have a database for them to aggregate to. It's like a thing you would.
Yeah. That's
No,
how
you
it
can you just connect to the message store directly with Stream Explorer. You don't
He
need
might have changed it from when.
Yeah, I think it's been up.
Oh, no, he queries that. Okay, you wouldn't want to do that on a live one though, because ad hoc queries on the streams are.
But still, as a tool in development.
In development, yeah. Yeah, we could see, I would think that's a great idea, more tooling around things. Sorry, I'm not speaking coherently. I love your idea, Scott. Aaron, would you be willing to do that?
Can you walk me through dumping some running? I've got the composite component running.
Oh, yeah, there's a couple of interactive tests
Do I
in
have to
that
run,
one.
do I have to run both components?
No, if you just run the interactive test, it will put the composite messages in there, but to see the whole flow, yes, you would need to run the device video component as well.
I can share my screen if you.
Yeah, for sure.
Right now.
Oh, you're just gonna do it now? Aaron, you're a monster.
I wanted an hour-long presentation.
I could talk about the arrows for an hour. See. We got iTerm, we got Emacs. I don't know.
I don't think so.
Actually, we don't need Emacs, we just need iTerm. And we need Chrome. Okay, so all right, composite component. I can run something. Actually, let's start. Let's launch it first. This is what it looks like. And this was built in like a night, so bear with it.
Oh, we're judging.
If you run the right shorter build one, that's one of the ones we used this evening.
Okay. So immediately we see active streams appear with the most recently written to at the top. So I can go ahead and add that one to my canvas. And then it shows me what are the causation messages of this, or causation message streams of this, of any of these. So I can add that. So now I see this, any one of these messages I can click on. This is a fun layout bug, but shows me details of the message, stream name, position, global position, all of the attributes, all the metadata, etc.
That's pretty cool.
It's beautiful.
Wow. Thanks. Really cool.
I really love the arrows.
Yeah, they help. And like, especially we have a lot of components that we actually have a component that's very, very similar to what you demonstrated. It's like a scatter gather type of component, or gather scatter rather. It's helpful to kind of see how messages relate. So let's flesh out the rest of the flow. What do I do next?
Run the device video component.
Suspense.
Okay. Oh, and it live updates. So kind of as we're watching it, messages will appear.
Very quick.
That is awesome.
See how cool that is?
It's like what you drew.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like on strings. This is beautiful.
You can have computers do
This is
that?
what Brian was describing.
Yeah. This is awesome.
So basically now you can write code and then model it.
No.
Wait, hold on.
You can see, or you can match this up with what you modeled.
Right.
Yeah.
That's coming from a manager.
We have types of tests that will simulate an entire message flow. So like in, for example, the composite component, it would write a build command and then scan the stream until initiated appears, and then it would it would write whatever the upstream or downstream component, it would simulate it, so it would write retrieved to the stream so that then it could invoke those handlers. So what we'll do is we'll run those tests and then observe the output in this and just kind of spot check it, make sure it looks, the causations are the way we expect them to be and all the messages appear the way that we expect them to to be, et cetera. So we can kind of eye streams as well.
Is this also MIT license perchance?
Yes, it is.
Nice.
This was shown off actually in the event type training last week. If you guys missed out on that.
I was thinking
Yeah, he had strep and I couldn't attend, so.
Do I have a license in here? Anyone who's used it owes me money.
Is it in your package, Jason?
Oh,
No,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not that beautiful. It's really not that impressive.
No, that's so weird. Yeah, it is MIT licensed. You have it on recording.
Well, thank you.
That was not intentional. That was a artifact of it mostly being written while I was tired.
Use this on Monday.
But yeah,
This flow is not showing the terminal built event, probably because you don't have FFmpeg on your machine.
indeed.
Or is the other component still running?
No,
The other component's not running.
Composite was running.
Oh, did it?
the top terminal and it was crashed. So
Well, this is good. We get to see it retry.
The message DB viewer will also be GPL by morning.
my agent.
Speak to Aaron. Yes, speak to Aaron about the licensing fees.
How long?
Fork it now before there's a license file.
Quick, Brian.
Well, I have no idea how long this is going to take, so we can.
It's downloading all the things.
Yeah,
Oh, it's finally on FFmpeg.
it has a dependency on everything in Groove.
Sometimes when you install something in Brew, it like, oh, now's the time to update all the other things you've ever installed.
All different
Like,
tool
thanks.
options.
It looks like you're trying to get work done. Would you like to stop and update everything on your system?
There's a way to like, well, that
Is you connect the two in a single project, and after you've found the start of what you're looking for, you move to this page and you see the whole thing. Like, boom, together.
Well, it's nice because they solve, the two different problems of both the history of things and also the current thing that you're working on.
Yeah.
In a visual way. And we're visual creatures, visualize the workflows.
No, the amount of time you spend in data grip just like looking at the streams like, okay, yeah, these ones.
We spent several hours doing that today.
Yeah.
Did we not, Brian?
Yeah, we did.
You can do it, component.
Oh! This is awesome.
Magic.
That was great.
I have to go.
It's like hitting see the file.
He's my right, so I also have to
Okay.
go.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, this was awesome. Thank you.
We'll make a YouTube short out of that.
Sorry, we missed what you said.
Actually, I think I'm going to screenshot this and throw it in the README.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, any other comments, questions? But seriously, folks online, folks here, if there's something you want to present on, please let us know. Next month, the fourth Thursday of the month is Thanksgiving Day. So we're either going to bump it up a week or not do it. And then December has the same problem. It's right in the middle between Christmas and New Year's. And so we'll either reschedule. I don't want to do 2 months without one. I think that could kill what momentum we have. So we'll probably bump it up to the third Thursday, but I'll post about that in various places and not shut up about it when I'm streaming. Anyway, anything else? Thanks for coming, everybody. I'm going to.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, it's over here.
Single piece flow of